Today on this 2011 Ram 1500 quad cab, we're going to install part number AL60818. This is the Airlift 1000 air helper springs for Coil Springs, and these will be installed at the rear of the truck. We're going to begin by showing you how the air springs perform on our truck. We'll go ahead and get a measurement of original ride height. From the ground to the top of the fender well, we're looking at about 39.5 inches. All right, we'll go ahead and add a load to our truck. We'll go ahead and see how much it compresses. All right, now for load in the back, we'll go ahead and get a second measurement, and we are down to 36.5 inches. We'll demonstrate how the truck handles on our bump and slalom course without the air helper springs installed. With the air springs installed, we'll go ahead and put our load back in. Then we'll go ahead and air them up to the maximum 35 pounds, and we'll check our ride height one more time. With the springs aired up, we're back up to about 37.75. Still not quite the original ride height, but we've got the truck riding even. So comparing to the front fender well, we're up by about 1.5 inches still in the back. We'll go ahead and take it for a quick test ride once again with the airbags inflated. Notice how much better our truck handles in the turns and bumps of our course. Okay, let's get started on our install. First, we need to go ahead and remove our fender liners for our truck. We'll do this by removing the fasteners along the edge of the fender well. It helps to use a pry tool to help get the liner out of its position. We'll go ahead and pull off the black cap here and save that because we'll be reusing that in just a few moments. We're going to compress the spring as much as possible to get all the air out. It may help to kneel on it, stand on it, or whatever it takes to flatten out as much as possible. Now we'll go ahead and put our cap back on. We're using a pull jack here, but you could also use a regular floor jack too. We're lifting the truck by the hitch in order to expand the coil spring, make it easier to work with and install the air spring. We can use zip ties to compress our air spring, and we'll go ahead and push the air spring all the way into our coil spring. On our zip ties that we use to compress our air spring, they do not come with a kit. The ones that do come with it are a little bit on the short side, so you want to go out and get yourself some extra long ones. So with our fender liner removed, we can see the top of our air spring right here. We can add this disc, which protects the top of the spring. And then we can add our airline to the barb fitting. We'll route it over the top here. The whole thing is open, so we can route it through. All right, this is our airline tubing. We'll go ahead and add our clamp. We're holding it open with some pliers. We'll just run our clamp on about like that. We'll push this onto the barb fitting on the air spring. And actually, what we can do is run it through the disc, run it through and kind of prop it up and out of the way. We worked it onto the brass barb fitting. Now I kind of grip my Airline with the pliers, but just enough to get a grip and push down right above it. And then I put my clamp into place. Then we'll take the rest of our Airline and we'll go ahead and run it up to where we're gonna install our air valve. In this case, we're gonna run up to the center of the hitch. I'm gonna route my Airline tubing over the hat channel here where it goes to the corrugations. Now routing Airline is gonna be personal preference, so this just seems to work pretty good by holding everything up and out of the way. All right, we got our Airline routed out to the center of our hitch. What I like to do is add a little loop in here. That way if we have to make adjustments or redo the connection points, we have some extra to work with. So I'm just going to use a tubing cutter to make sure it has a nice even cut to it. Now the tubing cutter we're using is part number AL10530. This is where we're going to install our air valve right here. So just for now, I'm just going to run through the back side of it, through the hitch, let it hold up. We'll go ahead and install our air spring on the passenger side now. And we'll go ahead and basically repeat all the same steps, routing it back over to here as well. Also on this side, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to try to route our air spring from the top down. We're actually going to deviate a little bit. Before we push it in all the way, we'll actually go ahead and install our Airline first. Since we got our zip ties compressing everything, we got mostly installed, we'll go ahead and take the cap off the barb fitting and add our Airline. Now also, I'm going to thread this through the disc. Just leave it like that for now. And we'll go ahead and push the air spring all the way in. Just go ahead and slip this into place. Follow the Airline tubing in. Then we'll go ahead and route our Airline tubing out the top. Maybe shake it around a little bit. Make sure it's all sitting the way we want it. Then we'll have easy access to our zip ties and we'll cut them loose again. And then we'll continue on with our Airline tubing, running it over to our hitch. All right, now at this point we have a choice. We can either have two independent air valves or have just one valve controlling both springs. If we want to do that, we install this T that comes with the kit. Barb fitting just like on the air springs, we just cut it and just splice and push them all back together and use the clamps. In this case, I think we're going to go ahead and save our T and we're going to run a line to each hole in the hitch. I'll go ahead and put my loop in there like before and cut off our excess, which we only have not too much left over. Okay, let's go ahead and put on our air valve. Go ahead and slide on our clamp. Barb fitting. Go ahead and put our clamp back on. Okay, before we put on our parts on our valve, make sure you have this out of the way. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and put on our nut. We'll run it back about 3/4 of the way. Star washer. Run that through the hole we're going to use. Rubber washer. Flat washer again. And then another nut. Now at this point we can go ahead and just a quick test fit. We can make adjustments if we need to get the valve to point out just a little bit more, which I think we'll go ahead and do. We'll take the nut on the back and then just spin it so it goes all the way towards the back. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and tighten it down. We'll use deep well socket for that. The 1/2 inch deep well socket will work just fine. We got our driver's side done. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the passenger side. Okay, with these connections made, we'll go ahead and take a few moments and use zip ties to come with the kit, and we'll go ahead and secure our lines up and out of the way. With all our connections made and secured, let's go ahead and put some air to the air springs, and then we'll go ahead and check for leaks. To do that, we'll spray down all our connections with some soapy water and look for bubbles. Once we determine there's no air leaks with the connection points, we can go ahead and reinstall our fender liners for our truck. Okay, and with that, that'll finish it for our install. Part number AL60818, the Airlift 1000 air helper springs for Coil Springs on our 2011 Ram 1500 quad cab.